How sweaty do you think Mark Knopfler's head got that he needed that headband?
I mean, there was no hair to keep it out of his eyeballs, so I assumed it was a practical utilitarian kind of headband that he needed, but I would assume very.
Okay.
He looks like a for the Eastern European. I don't know what kind of last name Knopfler is, but he probably has some Eastern European in him.
So, second question. Do you think that there were a group of groupies for Dire Straits? Like you think some chick like had that and like rubbed it all over herself? Like after the show, she caught it? Okay.
Yeah, that is every bit of 70s and 80s rock. That's what happened. Just anybody, just pick one. Tom Petty, not a pretty man. Chicks would have rubbed his clothes on him.
That's true. Third question. Since that's all licensed material, does that have to be the most expensive music video of the 80s? Because, I mean, I can't imagine that was
No, and I had a thought about this because back in the day, I worked at Merle Harmon Fanfare, and we had a few VHS tapes that were on loop that we had to have sports happening. That was one of them, and I've probably seen that video outside of the intro to our show when we've added it recently 150 million times. Okay. And that's a low ball estimate. Yeah, conservatively. But it struck me, even in the crowd shots there, sports used to be a lot more accessible for the regular person. So I think that probably went to a different level when you talked about clip rights, that it was probably like, just give us $50. We don't care.
Or it's like, hey, free advertising.
Exactly. I think the NBA, which a lot of those clips were from, you'll notice most of the NFL clips were either from, most of them were from really bad teams or of the cheerleaders. And I think there's probably a different level of cost for cheerleaders versus if you wanted to show, and I don't know what the Cowboys were doing in the late 80s, when mid to late 80s when that video
was noticed made. In their play, they score a touchdown that's not a blooper.
Right. And the Oilers are in there. Ernest Givens is bobbling a ball. But the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are in there 4 times, even in the brief part that we're talking about. So I just assume it was more accessible and easier for a band like the Dire Straits, who are very popular, to afford those clips. And I think rightfully baseball, basketball, and football all said, you know what? They want to advertise our shit? Knock yourself out.
Knowing that I'm sitting here with a walking lawsuit right there, baby.
Only if it's unauthorized. But there was a similar one we could probably find that was Rocket by Herbie Hancock. Also had a sports clip version of his video, not the creepy robot vacuum hose guys that was in the actual video. But there were a few of the sports clip videos. I think that was a thing for about 2 months.
Okay. Herbie 80s. Hancock, one of the guys who signed the Declaration of Independence.
Yes. Him and John, his cousin.
Herbie Hancock. That's one of Jessica's top 5 favorite movies, Tommy Boy. By the way, welcome to Off Day, everybody. We're off and running with nonsense.
Oh, I thought you were making a Back to the Future reference. Marvin Berry.
No. If you remember, you idiot, it's Herbie Hancock. She is she's a Tommy, like Tom. She watches Tommy Boy and laughs like she's never seen it before. It's the cutest thing.
Speaking of older movies, and I mentioned this to you instead of watching the Astros, I guess this will be my what do I want to talk about instead of the Astros part of the show. Amazon serves me a lot of 80s movies based on I guess what I watch, what I purchased from them. They served me something yesterday called Hiding Out. And I know I've seen this movie before. It was a John Cryer vehicle post Pretty in Pink. So it's probably the height of John Cryer's popularity. I don't if that's the right word.
But enough like free the pompatus of love.
Yes, and enough to give him his own film.
Yeah.
Let's say that. So he's a stockbroker of an indeterminate age who is running from the mob, hides out at his cousin's high school, and falls in love with a senior in high school. And hijinks ensue, blah, 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 blah. They never address, other than Patrick Coogan, who is in the movie, saying it's statutory because you're an adult. But at the end of the movie, John Cryer and this girl, whose name is escaping me right at the moment, are both in college together because he has been assigned to witness protection as a college professor, because that's a thing that can happen. And he gets assigned to her college, and they just start kissing under a tree. The age difference is still there, and she's now maybe 18, which is legal still creepy as fuck. So when we talk about movies that can't be made anymore, I hate that.
You know, I'm working on an episode of the show for that. I will add this to the list after I watch it. Annabeth Gish.
No, Annabeth Gish could get it. But I was also, when I was watching that movie, because I think it came out in 88. I looked it up, but then I've lost the number. But it's somewhere in that time frame.
Yeah, 87, 88.
Yeah, I was 17. Annabeth Gish, absolutely. Top of the list. It had your bad guy in white Reeboks and a big sweater, as all the 80s bad guys had. You had your evil teacher who was conspiring against the rebel guy who showed up, who nobody noticed was 7 to 8 years older than everybody else in the school. Very precursor to 21 Jump Street, but more of a comic turn, except for the time when he was being shot at.
Yeah.
And that feels like a lot for an 80s movie. Just keep in mind, a lot of people were doing cocaine.
Is that what's his name? Chief of Staff to President Bartlett, Leo McGarry in the movie?
It is.
What?
You also on another trope, you have the kindly African-American janitor who is a failed athlete whose former athletic skills come into play during the film. He's a boxer.
Okay.
He gets to redeem his life by beating up a bad guy
by Claude Brooks, actor Claude Brooks, who's apparently most famous for being in Bowfinger, a movie I didn't see. So
he's very much filling the Bagger Vance role.
We gotta find your swing. Yeah, okay. I did like that movie, though, Legend of Bagger Vance. Well, again, welcome to Off Day. The Astros did take 2 of 3, Andy, from the Rangers. So, and even with Peter Lambert kind of running into a little bit of trouble in the 7th inning, I think it was yesterday, he still really has pitched really, really well for this team. But also took another, what is it with this team and hurting themselves when they swing the bat? Because Altuve's out with what is presumably going to be another oblique strain.
Yeah, I think they actually did a formal release sometime last night that it is an oblique strain.
Grade 2, right?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you. I will go back to the Peter Lambert thing. Yes, he had a rough 7th inning. He should have been in the 7th inning. Thanks, Joe Espada. That's why you have a bullpen. They could have got the last 9 innings. Although I understand not wanting to trust your bullpen. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. But Peter Lambert has been pitching his ass off, I think, outside of one start for the Astros. Those of us who are crying about the demise of the Astros pitching lab, there are some things that they are doing well. Peter Lambert was not a commodity that anybody was really high on at the beginning of the year. But back to the Altuve issue. I don't know if it is systemic from the organization or just emblematic of a guy who's 36 years old, still swinging a bat at a high rate of speed. But I think oblique injuries in general in baseball, for some reason, have come up a lot more. Cal Raleigh went on the IL during the Astros series with the Mariners earlier this week that we're not going to talk about again with an oblique injury. They seem to be coming up more, and they seem to be I don't remember hearing about, maybe just wasn't paying attention, hearing about oblique injuries as much 10 years ago. And it seems like a thing. Maybe they just called it side pain because, it's like autism. We didn't know what it was. So, yeah.
Right.
But I wonder if it's kind of a side effect of certain amount of overtraining that baseball players have learned to do to maximize bat speed and maximize getting around on balls that they normally wouldn't have been able to because pitchers are now all of them throw 100 miles an hour. I don't think it's unique to the Astros necessarily, but as fans of the Astros, and that's, our particular chosen torture, we see it a lot more than we do, I guess, with other franchises. But this is now 3 years running that this team has run into just a litany of injuries. And at some point, you either have the wrong mix of players or you have the wrong training team or wrong approach to just physical health for baseball players. And I know there were changes made this offseason. I haven't seen the benefit of it yet.
The changes weren't as extensive as we were led to believe. They fired the head guy and just promoted his assistant. But I will say this, though. One of the other things that
nobody got hurt when Rex Jones was trainer. He wrapped them up in the warmth of that mustache, and everybody was just warm and calm and
like a Bacta tank for your face.
Exactly.
But one of the things though that you can't deny is this is what happens with an aging roster. And this is where I've always appreciated the Astros. And I believe that Jose Altuve should be given and all the extensions to make sure he retires with Houston. I don't ever want to see him in another uniform. But my desire for that stop begins and ends with Jose Altuve for this particular generation of Astros players. But this is what happens with an aging roster is you start getting guys that get injured in really, really weird ways, which is exactly why Jim Crane had always been, I think, hesitant to sign the big extension. And I actually, for the most part, agree with that assessment. Now, we've talked last week about part of what we're dealing with in the farm system being where it is, and that's part of this natural decline that comes with having paid for 10 years of dominance. But at least the Astros are going to get payroll relief in the coming seasons to get to try to rebuild this thing, as opposed to if we were locked into the third year of the seventh year of Alex Bregman and he's starting to break down. You know what I mean? Like you have like this, like age, baseball players do not get better with age.
I mean, I think the reality is there's always some gray area in that. So a 27-year-old Kyle Tucker going into free agency probably gets a longer extension or should get a longer contract based on the fact that he's entering free agency at 27 and not 31. You also have to look at the injury history they had up to that point. You bring up Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman was hurt a lot when he was with the Astros, and there's always some sort of leg injury. And I know he'd have a season where he didn't have one, but then he'd follow it up with another leg injury. He had leg injuries in Boston last year. I haven't been checking on him with Chicago this year, but it's likely more than not that he's going to have some sort of lower body injury at some point this year and miss a few weeks. That's just his nature. And so that's part of the calculus. Another part of the calculus with the 5-year number is that Jeff Luhnow convinced Jim Crane 100 years ago that none of the analytical models worked much past 5 years because there were too many variables involved. So whether or not they need to relook at that, whether it got hard-coded, however it is, that's where that 5-year number came from. And they've made, one exception to that, and I know it's a nitpick, but Yordan Alvarez wasn't technically assigned to a 6-year extension. Yes, it ate up some of his arbitration years, so it's not quite a free agent buyout, but that was the longest contract that the Astros have entered into under the Crane regime.
Right.
And I understand it. The problem is we're in the downside of it, and the young guys that we have been able to pick up or put through the system have not performed. Bryce Matthews had a good weekend. He's still batting .203, I think.
Well, I'm going to be more fair to Bryce Matthews. Bryce Matthews has had a good couple of weeks, but the real culprit, the real person to talk about is Cam Smith.
And that's where I was going next.
Fallen down to 196 with a 604 OPS.
And honestly, if Jake Myers, and who would have thought we would be looking forward to Jake Myers getting back on the roster at any point in his career, but if Jake Myers comes back today, I think that's expected. If the corresponding roster move was to send Cam Smith to Sugarland, I don't think that anybody would lose a lot of sleep over it because it's not physical with him. It's evidently mental. He's in his head, and he needs to go someplace where the pressure is not as high. Yeah. And I think the pressure that he's putting on himself, Chandler Rome had a good article about him this morning. But he's in his head. Altuve thinks he's in his head. The batting coach thinks he's in his head. Cam Smith thinks he's in his head. And I don't know enough about psychoanalysis to know how to get him out of it. So maybe it is a trip to the minors to just clear out the cobwebs. I'm not going to say clear the mechanism because I don't want Scott McIntyre coming after me. But something needs to change for him because he's just not performing. Outside of a good couple of weeks to open the season, he's not been somebody who has earned everyday major league playing rights. Zach Cole has done more in his limited time coming back off the IL than Cam Smith has done in the entire 45 games we played so far. So they've got problems. I mean, and you would guess that they're 10 games under 500.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You're 10 games under 500. You are I don't want to say that that not winning yesterday kind of took the wind out of whatever positivity I was feeling, because a sweep would have been really nice. But um, at this point in time, you got to kind of step on throats if you're going to try to get back into this thing. And I just look up and down this roster, and okay, you've got Shoemake, who's hitting 333 with a 900 OPS, but like, this is the first time this guy's really performed. Who knows? You know, he was a former first round pick. You mentioned in our text string that he was pretty hot coming out of A&M. He just hasn't put it together at the major league level. So maybe this is it, but also it's just as likely that he's going to fall into a deep slump. I don't believe in DeCenzo enough to think that he's going to keep up what he's doing. So it's again, it feels like a lot of this team being held together by duct tape with the hope that they can keep things. I'm not even say afloat, because they're not afloat. Like I was going to say, keep things afloat till the injured guys get back. Only by the grace of God are you only six games out of first place because of how bad the division is.
Yeah, and they haven't. I mean, I was looking back at somewhere in my head. I got, well, they're 500 over the last few games. They're 500 over the last 6 games, which is not a great accomplishment. The series they won this weekend against the Rangers was the first series they've won since the 1st of May, when they beat the Red Sox in Boston 2-1. And in between that, they've lost in humiliating fashion to the Dodgers, really to the Reds, and then to the Mariners, where they were just outclassed last week. And you talk about how you get out of a 10-game hole. Well, you start winning series. They won 1. It would be good if they won a series in Minnesota, and then maybe there's something that they can build on. But at this point, you can't lose 3 series and then win a series, and then lose 3 series and then win a series. And that's been what they've done so far this year. That's how they got the record they have. And I know everybody's talking about sunshine and rainbows, and Arrighetti, kind of unprompted after his great start this weekend, basically said, we don't even think about it. We see so many wins in this clubhouse, and these are all guys, and I just know we're going to put it together. And I don't know where that faith is coming from. I'm glad that they have it. I know Christian Walker has said similar things about seeing 100 wins in this room.
Yeah, but that's because he keeps getting hit in the head, so he doesn't know.
And every time he says things like that, his facial hair configuration changes. So I don't know, but I'm glad they're positive about it. As we've talked about, I'm struggling to see anything positive that they could even be building on right now, outside of, hey, they had a pretty good series against a Rangers team that looked pretty flat.
I will say this. One of the things, though, that, I get really exhausted by listening to Astros fans talk about, oh, this player that should still be here, or that player that should still be here. And Alex Bregman is not playing up to his contract right now. He's being called a bust in Chicago. Fromber's rocking a 4.5 ERA, which, yes, would be great for this staff.
Is he unsuspended?
No, he's making his start tonight. So
okay, good. So he served his suspension.
Yeah, but again, rocking a 4.3 ERA. So of course that makes him the ace of this current staff. But that's not worth the money.
My favorite one of these is Mauricio Dubon, who is currently rocking a 692 OPS, slugging 387, on base almost 300% of the time, or 30% of the time, 96 OPS plus. So not even a replacement level player, but somehow he's the one that got away from the current group.
So there's no one Astro that we can point to that they submitted, that this front office has let walk, that would be the answer to this problem. I don't know what Kyle Tucker is doing in Los Angeles. My understanding is they're not exactly happy about it, but that they realize that team is so good and loaded that they're going to be able to. I mean, I know that they're kind of waffling right now, but
yeah, Tucker's got off to kind of slow. He's got off to kind of a slow start, but he's having an okay season, probably not justifying the contract he signed. The thing about Kyle Tucker, as Astros fans know, is that whatever you're getting during the regular season is the best version of him, because once the Dodgers make the playoffs, if he follows suit as he has in all but one of his 9 years in the league, he disappears in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He would have fit in really well with the Bagwell-Biggio Astros as far as hitting in the playoff goes.
Yeah. So, there's that, and trying to get to the 400 winning percentage. Like, we are getting some guys back. Josh Hader is, I think he's got 5 more. I think they say they want him to make 5 more relief appearances.
Did he start yesterday, or is he starting Tuesday?
I thought he started already, but I don't really.
I
really
saw a graphic with his name as the starting pitcher, and for those of you that don't know, relief pitchers get to start minor league games because they want guaranteed appearances.
That's why guaranteed appearances, and they want.
It's not because they're trying to stretch him out, like somebody suggested to me the other day.
Well, and I will say this though, it looks like maybe trying to stretch Tang out was the right call. He went 5 innings, no runs yesterday. So,
I mean, if we were looking for positives, the starting pitching has mostly settled down. I don't know how long that's going to last, but Ting has looked good in the last couple starts. Lambert, as we mentioned, has pitched well. Arrighetti has pitched very well since coming up from AAA. That's 3. You get Hunter Brown back, hopefully, in the next few weeks. That would be 4. That's almost a rotation.
Which brings us to Amai is making his start tonight. And I don't know what Chandler knows, but he seems to feel like tonight's start is pretty pivotal for Amai. I don't know what he's referring to unless he's talking about. I don't think you send that guy down to the minors, because whatever social issues he's having are not going to be better at the Sugarland Space Cowboys, where they do not have nearly the clubhouse that the Astros have, just by its nature. So I don't know, but he seems to feel like tonight's start for MI is pretty pivotal.
There are a lot of Asian people in Sugarland. So maybe culturally that would be, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea what the Astros are going to do with Amai, because they're on the hook for a contract. And somebody I was going back and forth with on one of the socials was trying to pin down. So he has an opt-out after each season. Do the Astros have an opt-out after each season? And no, that's not how contracts work.
I know.
He is our responsibility for the next 3 years, provided he doesn't retire. That's kind of where we're at with that. He could opt out because it could just be a fit and he doesn't feel comfortable. I guess that's a thing that could happen. But the reality is you should just expect the Astros to be paying $18 million this year, next year, and in 28.
Well, what's weird for me, Andy, is I'm not even ready to give up on the guy, because even Yamamoto in Los Angeles wasn't good for the first half of his first year. My concern is his performance with the comments about not feeling comfortable with, well, he wants to throw a bullpen before his start, and we don't think that's a good idea, but we're going to let him do it. And then hey, Joe Espada, you have been in the major leagues for however long. There's a reason why you don't throw a bullpen the day before you start. Tell him not to do it. I get letting him do it for the first couple of times because it's what he was used to.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue is, and I don't know that this is unique to Amai or part of Espada. Espada's the leader of the clubhouse. Espada should be saying, these are the rules you need to follow, and there shouldn't be a debate about it. I think Espada inherited a very veteran team and didn't have to do those kind of things with certain players. And some players, Cam Smith, I think, is a good example of a guy who's very young but kind of took his cues from the veterans and conducts himself the right way, even if you haven't seen the results on field follow up to that. I don't know that Amai, with the language barrier, with the cultural differences, with the culture shock that Amai is going through, understands the role of Joe Espada. And I don't think all the time Joe Espada understands the role of Joe Espada. So it'd be hard for a guy like Amai to pick up on it. But if you have a starting pitcher telling you that I'm going to do this thing that nobody else is doing, but it would make me comfortable, and we have reasons for him not to be doing it, Espada's got to be the adult in the room and say, no, you're not going to do it, and here's why, and let's move forward, and we're not having this conversation anymore.
I totally understand when he first comes over from Japan saying, look, this is how you do things. We'll give it a shot. And when it doesn't work for the first 3 times, that's when you say, okay, there's a reason why we don't do it this way here. You're going to do it the way everybody else does it. We've given you your opportunity. to me, it's like when I used to direct, right? And I would always give the actor their first take on a scene because I want their honest approach to things, and then that way, whenever I give them direction, they at least trust me that I trust them in their talent.
Sure.
The time is done. When I found out he came back from Corpus and was still doing a bullpen before he started, I about drove my I know Tommy Boy reference. I almost drove the damn car into a bridge embankment. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What's going on?
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of truth to be held to the idea that the Astros were not prepared to bring in a guy with no major league experience from an Asian country, an Asian baseball league. They just didn't have the infrastructure set up the way it needs to be set up. And Amai appears to be a very sensitive young man who, and it's hard because he's on his fourth translator. So I don't know some of the stuff he's saying, if it's being translated correctly, but some of the stuff he's saying about just his performance and why it's not happening and why it's not clicking, they're not major league cliches, but they're like 20% off from a major league cliche. So it's hard to understand even where he's coming from on any of this. So I don't know.
Been some Japanese players that have, like Yusei Kikuchi said something to the effect of, it didn't sound like we're getting the exact translation from the translator. That there might be some differences, which maybe explains why he's on, again, his third or fourth.
I mean, Otani's original translator is available. We know where he is. Can't we just go get him for a furlough and have him?
We know he's in prison, Andy.
That's what I mean. But we at least know he's going to say the right things.
Yeah. We just, I don't know if can we get him transferred to Huntsville so we can just roll him out?
It's a work release program. We're trying to rehabilitate, not punish.
Knowing where he is isn't a benefit if where you know he is prison.
I will agree to disagree. He
very
seemed very competent at parts of his job.
On Tuesday, for everybody else but our squads, the SEC tournament starts, and it's frustrating, man, because I really wish pride were more of a thing, and the Longhorns were going to go out and try to win it. Like Schloss has already ruled out Dylan Volantis or Sam Cozart appearing in game one, which tells me if they win game two, which I think pretty much puts them in the semifinals, then the finals, then maybe
our teams wake up on Thursday morning in the quarterfinals.
So we need to win three.
One puts you in the semis. 2 wins puts you in the championship game. Three is the tournament.
My suspicion would be that if he does, is that if the Longhorns go up and win game one, that maybe, just maybe, you would see them try to win the whole thing. But I don't know. It's disappointing to know that the Longhorns, and I'm assuming the Aggies as well, are just going to have they're just going to lay it up and then, not do what Kevin Costner should have done in the movie Tin Cup. They're just going to do that and then see you when the NCAA start.
I am sure that all 16 squads, I guess only 14, all 16 squads in the SEC would like to win the SEC tournament. I'm certain of that. I think the difference is what level of effort each one of these clubs is willing to exert to get there. If you're Missouri and you're the 16th seed and your only hope of making the NCAAs is somehow winning this tournament, yeah, you're going to go balls to the wall, do everything you can to win anything you can.
Baseballs to the wall.
Exactly. If you are a team that has Omaha goals, hosting a regional, hosting a super regional, getting to Omaha, this is more of, I hate to even say this because it's a slightly more competitive, but it's really extended spring training. You want to go out, you want to get your reps, you want to keep your batters who have their timing down with their timing. You want your pitchers to keep in their routine, but really your goal for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if you get there, is don't get hurt. Just don't sustain any injuries that are going to prevent you from advancing during the NCAAs. And I think that's the mindset of A&M. I think that's the mindset of Texas. I think that's the mindset of Georgia. I think that's the mindset of who is Alabama, number 4. Those are the teams, and probably the other teams that got the first round bye. Your 5 through 8 teams: Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, and Auburn. All 8 of those teams are making the NCAAs. So there is nothing to play for because, except in maybe a couple of cases, seeding isn't even going to be affected by what happens in this tournament. You're locked into whatever seed you're going to be. So it really is stay healthy, keep your guys in rhythm, have your pitchers work on some things in competitive environments, but don't get hurt.
But what's the point of even watching it?
And if you happen to find yourself playing on Sunday, congratulations.
What's the point of even watching it then?
Baseball. I mean, it'll be more competitive than watching the Astros. So there's that.
I mean, actually, I'm going to be at Gettysburg, where that was pretty competitive, Gettysburg. But yeah, that's the lame part of it.
The home team won. You could have predicted that.
Yeah, that's true. But it's just so I don't know.
Could you redo the Herman Boone speech from Remember the Titans?
You know what? I think I saw Remember the Titans twice. I feel like I should see it again. Like I've seen clips of it and like, oh, I remember that being good, but
I like it. And it's a guilty pleasure, like a lot of Disney movies, but it is very much a Disney sports movie. You know what's going to happen. There's no surprises in it. Even the surprise isn't really a surprise.
That the white people and the black people are going to like each other?
No, that the star player gets hurt, but the team manages to win anyway.
Oh, yeah. You're right. One of the things that's done really good for the discourse between our two fans,
because it's a Disney film. Now I'm thinking about it, star player's father was dead, which they love to kill parents in Disney movies.
They love to kill parents in Disney movies. I tell you what, starting with Bambi's mom, it's been game on. It's been not all the genocide of parents in the Disney
movies. That was kind of the first one, and it goes through a lot of their films. Lion King is probably the most famous one that comes to mind. Oh, are you attached to this character behind by James Earl Jones? Don't get attached. Really line up with Jeremy Irons. He's going to last a lot longer.
But you're already so attached to James Earl Jones. One of the things that's done wonders for the discourse of our two fan bases online is that the Aggies, congratulations, won the Lone Star Showdown.
Okay.
And the Longhorns won the SEC All Sports Trophy, because apparently different sports and the sports are calculated in different ways for different. Don't you love some clarity, Andy? Don't you love that? Don't you love? I know you find our fan bases as annoying online as I do, and I think Billy Lucci had some tweet about if you can't laugh at the ridiculousness of these two groups of people, then you're just not paying attention. But although as he feeds into it, right? Like,
sure, he makes a lot of money from that ridiculousness.
He does. And I'm a fan of the moving goalposts. But I'm beginning to think that show would be better off if they could replace the Longhorn, because she's a little too, I think because she's younger than Billy, and Billy is our age and is kind of seasoned the way we are. She's a little too petty for my taste. But anyway, just your thoughts on the fact that we won two big trophies that therefore do nothing to clarify the rivalry.
I am sure that Cotton Holdings got their advertisement dollars spent well. Great. I saw a graphic, I guess, and this is honestly the first time I heard about it, was I saw a graphic yesterday morning saying that we won. Okay. And one of the things was listed is that at some point we had beaten men's basketball, had won one game, but I know y'all won one game as well, but that wasn't listed there. So I don't know how that works if they got a point apiece, but it was listed in the point total. And it just occurred to me that it's just nonsense. The whole thing is just this weird, some things are individual games and some things are series, but some things are how you finished in standings, but some things are not how you finished in standings.
According to the website,
it just made up nonsense.
According to the website that tracks the Directors Cup, it has something to do with you guys finishing percentages above us in track and field that gave the edge. Like, honestly, if we're being honest, they should either just give the trophy out after each basketball series, baseball series, But really, Andy, it should be about the football game. That's what matters in this, right?
I mean, if you want to, I don't want to. I don't want to diminish women's athletics. That's not where I'm
That's never
coming
been.
from.
If you're watching this show for the first time, that has never been what we've done on this show. In fact, we're talking Longhorn softball next.
But this trophy is it? It is a trophy, I guess.
It's like a. It's and is there one?
What it should be, what it should be is a piss bucket with Greg Abbott's face on it. Just goes back and forth between the schools, and they could
piss in it, or do you empty the piss out every time?
I don't know. I think
the status of the piss is important because you don't want stale piss.
It's good to be the king, Jim.
I've got students in here, and one's like, "What the hell is going on this?"
You haven't shown them History of the World Part 1?
I'd like to keep my job. There's a selection of movies my students want me to show them. Like and those are when Mr. D's ready to quit, we're gonna watch The Exorcist. And now we'll watch History of the World Part 1.
I think there are parts of it you could show now. I think
show them the boy scene.
Yeah, I don't think the whole French Revolution. I think that's probably one of the harder parts to swallow if you're the parent of a high school student.
I cannot show them the Ethiopian flim flam.
You cannot.
No, you cannot show them that. That's definitely. He's now Googling Ethiopian flim flam.
But I don't know, what were you even talking about? Yeah, this. Yay, we won.
Yeah,
but I just don't care. The only reason we won is on the back. And yes, baseball swept Texas in an abbreviated series, so I guess we have that. But the majority of the points that A&M gathered in this weird competition were on the backs of women's sports.
Yeah.
Which, congratulations, it's just as valid. It is, and that's why we won. But the only thing people in the state really care about from a rivalry perspective is probably football, and then baseball. Everything else.
I think you should just do a trophy for each of the sports. I think you should do a trophy for baseball, softball, and basketball and football, since they're all happening in that one contained. Because even like doing it for basketball, you play months apart sometimes. Like it's like, but you play a baseball series, you win, therefore you get the trophy for that sport for that year. Like just do 4 trophies or whatever it is.
There's some sports where you don't play directly, like golf. If you're not facing off against a team one-on-one, if it's part of a tournament and you happen to finish higher in that tournament, I don't know how that counts as rivalry points. And I guess it's because we want golf to feel like they're important, but it's golf. They're important through multi-million-dollar checks in 10 years.
One of the things I value the most, one quality I value the most in people is self-awareness. And there were a bunch of self-awareness Aggies who were commenting, because I guess it was one of the ADs who said he wishes all the sports had factored into this trophy. And someone pointed out, well, they won the SEC all sports trophy. So what would have happened if you would have factored in all of the sports? You wouldn't have won. And it was an Aggie account pointing that out. And I was like, I appreciate the self-awareness that it takes to make that comment.
Why it's so convoluted. I mean, even really the all sports trophies, when you get down to that, directors' cups and all that, they're kind of convoluted as well. Stanford used to win forever because they just had more sports programs. And then they changed the rules, and Stanford dropped half their sports programs. So they're not schools. You're the school right now that does really well in all sports on a more even playing field. But even then, some things are worth more points than others. And only if it got played on a Tuesday, but not if it was happening in a tournament. But what if it was an invitational? It's just all dumb.
It should just be based on money, because that's really what matters.
Sure. And that way we could guarantee that OU would never win anything.
Never, because they've got no money. Hey, you know what? Speaking of money.
Because they're poor.
Well, exactly. Now, speaking of money, your president, and I guess mine, said that he does not care how much money the war in Iran is costing you, Andy.
Well, it's never even entered his mind.
Or my students, Marley and Presley, who just walked in the room. Ladies, hi.
It never even entered his mind. He would never
even entered his mind. And look, here's the thing. If it's World War II, and it's a real, of course, that should not be the factor. But when you create a war out of nothing, And again, it also comes down to the message for me wasn't even problematic necessarily, but it's always the messenger and how the message is delivered. And what I also want to point out, I want your thought on that, but I want to point out this too. Just because Trump's candidates won a bunch of primaries does not mean he's any more or less politically popular than he was before all this started. It just means that he's still able to activate primary voters, which we all know are the most extreme, the most crazy about it all. Call me when he wins a general election, which he has not done since he's been president again.
I am breathlessly waiting to find out what happens in the Republican primary in Texas. Early voting started today. If you want to go vote in the primaries or the runoffs, knock yourself out, please do.
Do I vote for the thief or the guy with no spine?
Well, it's interesting to me because I guess a week from Tuesday, when the election is over, we're going to find out who Donald Trump loved the most in Texas, because right now he's withholding his favors. And as soon as a clear leader emerges from this primary or this runoff, we're going to find out that he was in his corner all along. As a matter of fact, he'll even take credit for him.
We love corners, don't we, folks?
My favorite part of all this is if you are in Texas right now and you're in I guess it's in every city. Certainly is happening in Houston, where we watch the morning news periodically to see what wreck I have to avoid to getting to work. It's the commercials that literally run back to back about how MAGA each one of these guys is. So John Cornyn is more MAGA than Ken Paxton, but no, Ken Paxton is more MAGA. He sued Biden over 100 times. Not one of those cases ever went to court. And John Cornyn hasn't done anything in 54 years. That's true. But Ken Paxton has 107 felonies, and he's just as valid. Meanwhile, James Tallarico ate a vegetarian taco, and he's got a problematic past because of it.
First of all, I think he had a potato, egg, and cheese, which I'm not sure
qualifies. Which is a normal, classic breakfast taco option.
Now, look, I don't believe in potato on a breakfast taco. That's my own predilection. Maybe it's my own Irishness pushing back on potatoes, but I don't believe that I think egg makes it not vegetarian. I don't know.
I will tell you this: 20 million Mexican fans of this show will tell you that you're wrong. They normal. You know how normal
I'm not saying
is?
It's not normal. I'm saying abnormal. I'm abnormal.
Right, but you want to know how regular and normal a potato, egg, and cheese breakfast taco is? It's on literally every menu at every taco truck.
You're pounding the table. You're fired up about this, man.
I am, because somehow we're equating, because this is what we do in 2026. We're equating a man eating a taco with potatoes in it instead of pig fat with felonies. And those are somehow equally problematic in our world in 2026. And then throw in something about Sharia law, and then we're just all off to the races. Yes, Donald Trump doesn't care about our finances. It's true. I'm sorry to be the one to have to break it to you. Although I'm not, he did, and then he doubled down on it about 3 days later.
After all of his little mouthpieces tried to spin it.
Yes.
No, I said it, and I meant it.
A perfect statement. It was a perfect statement.
We love the statement.
I don't know what he thinks a perfect statement is. I mean, I think I do know what it's anything that comes out of his mouth is a perfect statement. But he's telling you the truth. I think a lot of times
the perfect statement to Donald Trump is half drug 17-year-old girl. That's a perfect statement.
Well, that's a perfect situation for him and his buddy. By the way, if you haven't watched the cold open for Saturday Night Live, it might be worth your time.
Yeah. Will Ferrell as Epstein's ghost in the form of Jacob Marley is pretty inspired.
This time I'm gonna leave you hanging.
Yeah.
Wink.
Yeah. I definitely killed myself. Wink.
But literally, I think Trump spends so much time lying, and everybody just kind of blows it off because somehow we've made that a normal part of our society and our leadership and government. He's literally telling you the truth. He does not care about your financial situation. He doesn't care that gas is costing you $5 a gallon. He doesn't.
They're thinking it will hit $5 a gallon by the end of this week.
He doesn't care that grocery costs are higher. He doesn't care that it's harder to get a mortgage. He doesn't care about any of those things. And he said this now twice, doubled down on it. And you still have people that, well, that's not what he means.
But meanwhile, the moron in chief has cut the CDC. He has cut FEMA. What's the thing? Is it FEMA? Is it FEMA who cleans up after disasters?
Yes.
I asked one of my students. He says yes because he's really smart and socially aware. So he had no idea what I was talking about. He just looked at me like,
if you live in Houston, you know FEMA because they are the people who show up after the floods and the hurricanes.
right. Well, and so the CDC is cut. And by the way, Ebola is blowing up in Africa again.
Hantavirus and Ebola.
And we've got lines, and we think that they're about to have 2 or 3 days of tornadoes that are like just going to start raining from basically from Illinois all the way down to the panhandle of Texas.
Well, the good news.
I'm not a big government person, but there are certain things the government should be doing, and protecting me from disease and protecting me from national disasters seems to be two of those.
Well, good news for the panhandle. Greg Abbott is our governor, so we'll get federal aid there if you need it. I hope you don't, but if you do, you'll get FEMA will show up
because that is how he rolls.
If you're in Illinois,
you fucked.
Yeah. Good luck, because we don't like your governor.
Are they going to make sure they build enough ramps between here and the panhandle for the governor? That's rude. I shouldn't say that.
No, because that would be DEI.
I don't
feel good about he is going to pull himself up by his bootstraps that he can't feel.
I don't feel good about that either. Yeah, that's fun. But you know what? As we get closer to wrapping up this episode that has long left the wheels of
and our careers
reality, we are. I will be honest, I'm probably playing to an audience a little bit and being a little bit more crass than normal, see if I can get a reaction out of those three that are sitting over here. But I will say this: I did get to go. No, let's do this one first. How dare Christopher Nolan not make a historically accurate version of the Odyssey? Can you believe people are freaking out that the Odyssey is not historically accurate? It's not a historical document.
No. They're not freaking out that it's not historically accurate or his portrayal is not going to be historically accurate. It's that sirens and cyclopses are going to be underrepresented by the people who they really were back in the day. How could you have a black woman be a siren? That is impossible in 2026. Everybody knows in ancient Rome or wherever this story happened that I'm not really aware of, that all the people were very, 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 very white and spoke with British accents.
And how dare that the Coen brothers do it too by setting the Odyssey in 1930s or 10.
You know, another thing, Christopher Nolan, noted DEI advocate, is the leader of this conspiracy.
Thanks, Obama. Yeah, the idea that people are so like upset that like what's her name from Black Panther has been cast as Helen of Troy.
Lupita Nyong'o. Well, that woman couldn't launch. Her face couldn't launch 1,000 ships.
But it cracks me up that people don't realize that when Homer wrote this thing, he did take a couple of actual historical events and just wove it into the fabric of clearly a fantastical story involving sirens and goddesses and all of those things.
Let's just put this in perspective. Homer, the Iliad, the Odyssey are just as much historically accurate as Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So if in 200 years somebody is making a gender swapped or race swapped version of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and people are getting upset about it, that's how ludicrous this conversation is.
That movie's pretty badass though. Abraham Lincoln.
It is a fantastic movie. I watch it whenever it comes on. It doesn't come on near enough.
No.
But I've never once watched it and go, those vampires really should be Chinese. They would have been Chinese if it was real. Everybody knows that's why we had the Chinese Exclusion Act, because of the vampires.
China. Yeah. All right. As we really do get close to wrapping this up today.
You didn't know I was going to mention the Chinese Exclusion Act today, did you?
I did not have that on my bucket list. This is what makes this one of the most erudite sports podcasts out there. I mean, we got everything. I did get to the movies twice yesterday. So I had 4 days. I had 4 days of 3 baseball games in a row. And first things first, went to Star Wars night with the Round Rock Express for Ballpark Nation. That was as good and top to bottom solid a Star Wars night as I have been to at all. And I'm gonna have some video for that next week before their next
Are
homecomings.
the vets in the room with you making you say that?
The Fets are not in the room with me, but I do
Okay,
have
'cause I
a
saw they had you at gunpoint for.
they did have me at gunpoint. I did have a bounty on my head, and it's not an easy thing to live with, you know. As we learned, most obvious line in history: a death mark is not an easy thing to live with. No shit, there, jerkwad. It's not. I got bounty hunters coming at me from everywhere. Of course not. No, they put on from just like here's the thing, Andy. And I know I say this to you, knowing that you know this as well, but everybody that's listening, when you have Star Wars nights at minor league baseball, there's always going to be a continuum of quality. Those in bigger cities have the actual 501st Legion, so therefore you're going to get movie quality costumes. And even though I did see the fattest Mandalorian you've ever seen, all the costumes were excellent. I've been to some where they got at the Spirit store on the way to the game. I'm not gonna lie, but
Sure.
from I think they had like 15 cosplayers out there. They had serious like lightsaber demonstrations going on. Basically every half inning in the back of the concourse, including Jedi training for kids. It was my first ever like full on drone show, and the Star Wars drone show was top notch. Round Rock Express, they absolutely they set the standard for what a Star Wars day should be like. I've been to a bunch of others at the major league level. The Astros do it better than anybody else at the major league level, but Round Rock absolutely killed it.
I have no doubt Round Rock always puts on a fantastic presentation in just about everything they do, and that's hard for me to say since they are so heavily Rangers coded these days. But because you mentioned Fat Mandalorian, that just makes me think of the comedy that exists in most of the Star Wars films that a lot of people just glaze over. Because I thought immediately of the Fat X-Wing pilot, whose name is Jack Porkins. He's a fat guy named Porkins. That's hilarious. That is objectively hilarious. The fact that he looks like Paul Walker Hauser is, I mean, like it could be his dad, but that's a great name. And those things are littered throughout the Star Wars, all 9 things and all the prequels and sequels and cartoons and everything else. Enjoy that. Enjoy that.
Little fat shaming from George Lucas. But I will say too, one, we're also watching, and I forgot what it was, HBO Hollywood documentary. I think it's well, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically like a reality series, like a Dateline almost, about Hollywood sad stories. Like we just watched one on like Dustin Diamond. Excellent. It's got the doctor from Loveline. What was his name? Dr.
Drew.
Dr. Drew. Yeah, Dr. Drew. We watched the episode about well, first of all, they had the episode about Matthew Perry, and they kept talking about the Ketamine Queen, but I kept hearing Caribbean Queen by Billy Ocean. So that's a whole other
as one does.
That's a whole other thing. But Jess and I did get to the movies twice yesterday. Now we went to see Devil Wears Prada 2, and it was fine. The beginning of the movie is very clunky because they have to reset up conflict that really was put to bed at the end of the last movie, which is kind of irritating to me when they do that. But that's a vibes movie anyway. But I will say we saw Sheep Detectives, and I was shocked at the only word I can use to describe that movie was it was a beautiful film. It was incredibly touching. It was funny. Roy Kent plays 2 brother Rams that don't like each other very much. And Andy, go for that. The voice work is excellent. Patrick Stewart, the whole 9, Julie Louis-Dreyfus. But Roy Kent playing 2 adolescent Ram brothers who just want to hit things is so on brand for Roy Kent that it's worth the price of admission. Just bring tissues.
Speaking of tissues, there is a new documentary on Netflix, the Martin Short documentary.
Oh no.
If you're Martin Short, I guess you get Lawrence Kasdan to be the director of your documentary.
Because why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? You would never know from the performances that he gives, from his public persona, the amount of absolute tragedy that this man has had to deal with his life, between his father dying at a young age of his, between his wife dying of cancer, between his daughter committing suicide, which isn't really touched on in the film. So I'm a little iffy on the timing on all that. Just his ability and mission as portrayed in the film to kind of carry on and be Martin Short. And some of the things that's cost him. It's not as good as the John Candy documentary, but it's at that same level. It's worth watching, but tissues are necessary.
I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm really just excited that I'm so happy for Steve Martin and Martin Short that they've really found a third act. And that third act really stems from kind of their friendship. I mean, they're doing the touring show, the whole thing. It also really proves to you what a dick Chevy Chase must be, because they do not want him anywhere near Only Murders in the Building or anything. Like, he's apparently lobbied to be on that show a couple of times to reunite the three amigos, and they're like, "Nah, we're good."
It's kind of hilarious because they do talk about Three Amigos and how it wasn't well received. And they talk about the great relationship that Steve established and how he made Martin Short feel comfortable, because Martin Short was pretty young in his career at that point, at least from the American side of the thing. Other than showing a picture of the three of them together, there was no mention made of the fact that Chevy Chase even existed.
Yeah, it's just it goes back to like, how can a guy with all the talent in the world just be so loathsome that, I mean, Bill Murray punched him the first time they met in person. Like, it's just it's actually a sad reflection, because I did not watch his documentary, but a great friend of mine did. And he said watching it, it felt like Chevy Chase was basically in denial for 2 hours. That actually, really, everybody does love me, and the ones that don't, I don't care. And I guess, as somebody who actually does care what people think about me, I care what my students think, I care whatever, I care what my friends think, my wife, everything. I find it unbelievable that you could just not care.
Yeah. I did watch I guess it was a CNN production. And I mentioned that only because Lawrence Kasdan does a feature-length documentary on Martin Short. CNN does the Chevy Chase documentary.
Whatever intern they could get to do it.
And I think he thinks he's playing a character, but he was so antagonistic to the actual interviewer that it made it hard to watch. And I am a huge SNL head and will watch things, especially from that time period. That original cast was brilliant in a lot of ways. I think it actually got better once Chase left and Bill Murray took his place. But the fact that this man has had the career, Chevy Chase has had the career that he's had, and is so completely unaware how he's perceived. And then you add to the fact that he's very clearly suffering from some mental disabilities, Alzheimer's. I don't do diagnoses, but some sort of late stage memory loss, not being all there all the time kind of stuff. It's just kind of, he's a tragic figure, but he's created so much of the tragedy for himself that it's hard to have a lot of sympathy for him. And it's not, he didn't get along with Bill Murray or he didn't get along with Martin Short and Steve Martin on a film set. It's that every stop in his career, you have people that either refuse to talk to him or refuse to work with him again.
Yeah. Beverly D'Angelo, like, finds him loathsome.
The entire cast of Community.
He single-handedly ruined what for the first 3 seasons is one of the best television shows ever made, and then got the showrunner fired. And that whole storyline is a documentary of itself. So yeah, it's just fascinating to see, and tragic, because
he's the reason Donald Glover left Community, because it was at some point some kind of conversation that he needs to go or I'm going to go.
Yeah. And that's actually what happened with the showrunner as well. You either Chevy goes or I go. And then they brought the showrunner back, but it's just, it's one of those things that's always kind of flabbergasted me, because you have everything you could possibly want. How can you just not be in a good mood?
You would think, but I guess, we all have our demons that push us in whatever direction they are.
I mean, the whole reason that we have multiple Rusties is that Anthony Michael Hall did not want to come back because of him.
Yes, there was definitely a downgrade of Rusties.
We dip, and then they start to climb back up, because I actually do like the Rusty in Christmas, and I do like the Rusty in, well, of course I like the Rusty in Vegas. But the Rusty in 2 is awful. All the kids are terrible. in European Vacation. And I don't know if it's because I'm racist against gingers. Maybe I am, but there's just something about it that just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can't. I will say I'm a little premature, but I did not enjoy Johnny Galecki early in his career. I preferred him more, and I don't hate on Big Bang Theory. It is absolutely what it was. I find it humorous at times.
The spinoff show looks funny though.
But Johnny Galecki had a fantastic career. He was in Christmas Vacation, so he was the redeeming factor. But when you start with Anthony Michael Hall, and this is a very 80s coded conversation.
Yeah. But Ethan Embry was good.
But I mean, it's kind of a But
I'm saying the bell curve.
And I will say this: European Vacation. You're exactly right. That Rusty, whose name I'm even not bothered to look up because he did not do anything after that. That's just the truth I'm going to tell myself, whether it's real or not. Was so horrible that it's colored every other Rusty for me after that.
Yeah, I just feel like anyone could be better than him.
I mean, anyone.
And and I thought Ethan Embry, because he went on to have a decent career afterward. Maybe that's part of it too. Is
how bad an actor do you have to be to not be able to be horny teenager in Europe and not make that believable?
I don't know, but it doesn't. And you and I are of that generation, so they're using catchphrases and slang terms that we didn't use. Like, I never once said I'd like to go consume some righteous quantities, which I think is actually a line in the movie. Like, I think John Hughes, did he write that one too? But either way, by then, John, maybe go talk to a teenager before you write teenager.
No, I don't think John Hughes had anything to do with that one.
I hope not.
I just did something I said I wasn't going to do. His name was Jason Lively, or his name is Jason Lively. He's still alive.
He's still with us.
And his other films outside European Vacation was his first film, evidently. And other things were Night of the Creeps.
I've actually seen that.
A one-episode spot on 21 Jump Street as Davy Miller. Oh, I'm sorry. He did do 2 episodes of Dukes of Hazzard during the replacement season.
Oh, with Cole and Vance?
As somebody named Rod Moffat.
Okay.
Yes, with Cole and Vance. And then, that's about it.
Well.
Oh, no, he did an Old Navy ad in 2012.
Oh, it was the Vacation Old Navy ad. They had all the Rusties.
Yes.
It was all the Rusties and all the Audreys were back.
And this should tell you, because I'm looking at his IMDb right now, the fact that they put the Old Navy ad in as a credit. That's pretty not rough. Something they normally do.
It's not. All I got to say is find a bush, Audrey. All right, that does wrap up Off Day with Ballpark Nation. Hey, we're going to be back on Friday, which we're going to preview the sports weekend for the Astros and where the Aggies and the Longhorns are going to be in the SEC tournament. And I will be taking off for Baltimore this weekend. I'll be seeing the Baltimore Orioles for the show and then going out to Gettysburg. So we will not have an episode on Monday, but I will have an episode for you guys on Friday. Andy, until then, have a great rest of your day, man. I hope it's as good a day as you are a human. Bye.
Same to you.